and consequential negotiations in the world.
Sticking with the U.S. press, let us go with Axios' Zach Basu, right in the far right.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Given the position you've now staked out, what
Do we think it's vodka? Do we really think that? No shot. Come on.
Right in the far right.
That is his thumb reflecting through the glass? What do you mean thumb? It's just clear. It just looks like water. Or are you saying like right here, you assume that it's rum? Stop. Destiny, I'm a bartender. That is 100% vodka. Okay. It's clear liquid. He took small sips from it 6 times in a 27-minute interview. Yeah, because when you're drinking water and you're doing a presentation, or when you're talking, or when you're speaking, you're just drinking the water to like to make it so your mouth's not dry. You're not like I need to fucking gulp down because I'm dying of thirst. It's usually just to make your mouth not dry. Destiny, I'm vodka. That's 100% me. Based. What the fuck? Destiny counterpoint. This is not real.
Respect for its dignity.
But also fucking based. Don't fuck around. Hell yeah. Am I the asshole for kicking my sister and her newborn out because she keeps calling my dog dirty? So my sister just had a baby and needed a place to stay for a few months. I agreed because, you know, family. The only issue, I have a golden retriever, Max, who's my baby. He's well-groomed, trained, and literally the sweetest dog ever. From the second she moved in, she started making snide comments about how dirty he is, saying things like, dogs don't belong inside, especially near a newborn. He's covered in germs. I don't want my baby getting sick. Can you lock him in a room when we're in the living room? I tried to compromise by keeping him out of the nursery, but that wasn't enough. She wanted me to keep him out of the house entirely. She even went as far as spraying disinfectant on my couch where he sleeps. The final straw, I caught her kicking Max away with her foot when he came near the baby's playmat. I lost it. I told her if she has a problem with my dirty dog, she can find another place to stay. She freaked out, calling me heartless for prioritizing a dog over her and the baby, and left crying. Now my parents are furious, saying I should have been more accommodating. I like this, including anything that has like violence towards an animal. You know for a fact that Lay Reddit's going to side with the other party. But the I mean, assuming she's not leaving anything out, the sister does seem kind of like an asshole. If you're crashing for free already from a place, it's 49% pit bull. Based. Pit bulls are based. Recently, DOGE has bragged about terminating 89 contracts worth a collective $881 million at the Institute for Education Sciences at the U.S. Department of Education. Penny-wise, but pound foolish. They've unwittingly canceled some of the best education research out there, along with major national surveys and tests that are crucial to tracking America's educational performance. This is 2 days ago. Their claim is also highly misleading, as discussed below. Many, if not all, the contracts they terminated were already well underway, and much of the $881 million must have already been paid out and spent. The Department of Education's own Twitter account has attempted to explain, setting the record straight about IES and its contracts. IES was founded in 2002 to fund development and rigorous testing of new approaches for improving education outcomes for all students. $14 billion and countless contracts later, our students are no better off. Lowest decile students perform worse in math now than at IES's inception. There's been no meaningful increase in average math scores from IES's inception to pre-pandemic. Oh, are these just quintiles of student math scores, I guess? Instead of improving outcomes for students, here's where taxpayer dollars were going. $4.6 million contract to coordinate Zoom and in-person meetings. $3 million contract to write a report that showed that prior reports were not utilized by schools. Oh, okay. Wait. These are the only examples of supposed waste thus far, but reporter Matt Berg has the full list of canceled projects here. So far, I haven't been able to find the actual contracts on Zoom and in-person meetings or mailing and clerical operations, but maybe they'll turn up someday. Weren't we supposed to have something by Valentine's Day? What am I thinking of? Was it DOGE that said they would have a list of all the accounting? Or did Trump say something that he'd solve a war or something? Or was it Elon Musk's transparency? Oh yeah, also, what about the hostages? Are those all freed now too, or? Doge.gov/savings. Receipts coming over the weekend now. Uh-oh, we're getting an Elon Musk timeline. As someone whose actual PhD is in education policy and who has been following these issues for about 2 decades, I'll say this. Much of what DOGE canceled here is not waste or abuse under any conceivable definition of the term. Indeed, DOGE has canceled many high-quality research projects that had already been underway for years, which is far more wasteful than letting them finish. Take a step back. What is the Institute for Education Services or Sciences, or IES? It was created by the Education Sciences Reform Act of 2002, a major project of George W. Bush. IES is specifically mandated by Congress, so it is not something that a presidential administration could lawfully abolish. The official mission is to sponsor major national research projects and surveys that track the condition and progress of education. IES includes various subunits, including the National Center for Education Statistics. IES has been controversial in the education community for the past 2 decades or so, ironically because of its relentless focus on high-quality randomized trials to test everything from curriculum to teacher training programs to dropout prevention programs. As we've seen before, the education community can be surprisingly resistant to randomized trials, and you can see this resistance in a 2022 report from National Academics. With that as background, what did DOGE cancel the other day? There isn't time or space to review everything, but here are a few representative examples as I go through the list to try and find more information online. First example, here's an impact evaluation of reading programs in early elementary school. Some screenshots in case the webpage is deleted. Background. With a third of U.S. students failing to develop foundational reading skills by 4th grade, calls have been grown to renew the focus on this critical learning and to use scientifically based teaching methods. Many elementary schools are seeking to adopt a more strategic approach to improve the quality of reading instruction and the way struggling students are identified and provided with extra help. These efforts, often under the umbrella term multi-tiered systems of support for reading, rely on outside training and technical. Okay, gotcha. In other words, this is a large-scale randomized trial across 140 schools nationwide in order to determine how best to help struggling students in early grades learn to read. Is the contract too expensive? Who knows? Maybe so. I've reviewed contracts/grants exactly like this when I was in philanthropy, and in one case, we actually made a $20 million grant to the research firm MDRC to do some major studies on preschool. Research firms can sometimes pad the bill by adding a ton of survey work that isn't 100% necessary, but that's besides the point because it's guaranteed that no one dug into the exact details and activities enough to know if that's what's happening. And if there's anything we should be doing in education research, it's funding large randomized trials on how to more effectively teach kids to read. In short, here we have a research project that was already underway for the past several years. Even if the budget was somewhat padded, it is much more wasteful to pull the plug halfway than to let the project finish. If the project finished up, it would deliver some useful findings. Pulling the plug now means that all the millions spent to date are wasted. A second example, there's a contract to APT, another research firm, to evaluate the DC Opportunity Scholarship Program, i.e. the voucher program that has operated in Washington, D.C. for over a decade now. Here's their page, which correctly notes that Congress itself mandated this exact research. This is valuable education research on a long-running voucher program, and it was mandated by Congress no less, and we're canceling it. Why? Okay, so these are just examples of, yeah. RIP. Oof. Do we want to watch this? I don't know if I can handle this. on one second. One time in these videos, just one time, I wish that there would be like, here's a program that's getting canceled. Well, this would be the dream. Here's a program that's getting canceled. In depth, this is what the program did. This is why the money shouldn't have gone there, meaning it wasn't appropriated by Congress or whatever. Therefore, this is why it's within the narrow purview of what DOGE should be doing, which is getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. You know, why it's okay. Do you think it's going to be that? Or do you think it's going to be an incredibly broad, the Department of Education is DEI and woke, and our scores aren't high enough, and so the private system and Catholic schools or whatever are going to do better, and blah, 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 blah.
Back to another episode of The Brett Cooper Show. We have some updates for you all. I'm so honored. I'm so excited to inform you all that I have gotten a pop filter. So the days of me blasting in your ears and you hearing literally every single piece of my enunciation, hopefully those days are over. Also, guys, I read your comments. I removed the headphones. You know, I got these really cool headphones that you saw in the previous episode, and also you'll see them in an episode that I pre-recorded for next week. But I got these really cool headphones. They're from the 70s. We got them fixed up so that I could use them. I put it on, and it just didn't feel right. And oddly, I just felt so weird wearing them, and I saw comments being like, Brett, you don't need the headphones anymore. So I have officially ditched them. We're back to the original setting. Happy to be here. But guys, today we need to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. We need to talk about the state of education. If you guys have been watching my content for the last 3 years, even before the last 3 years, because this is something I would write about constantly and talk about in my social media videos, we need to talk about education. And more specifically, what the future holds for education under President Trump. Because Trump has been signing executive orders left and right. I know it is pissing off the left because they think that he is abusing his power, but honestly, he is doing exactly what he promised us. I mean,
I like how those two things weren't even related. People are mad that Trump is abusing his power, but, so implying that you're about to counter that argument that people are saying he's abusing his power, but he's just doing what he promised. What if he promised to do things that were abusive of power? Like, that's not even that's not...
I mean, the theme of Trump's presidency thus far is promises made, promises kept. And listen, we are getting exactly what we voted for, and we are very happy. I mean, from keeping men out of women's sports just a couple of days ago, which was just incredibly historic. If you guys have not seen that photo of Trump signing the executive order.
It's incredibly historic. God, the dick riding is so cringe from these rollings through every single thing Trump does. A historic photo. I'm getting sick nerd chills looking at Trump surrounded by all these 9-year-olds. Oh, it's so historic. Like,
or surrounded by young female athletes. It was, I mean, truly brought tears to my eyes. So many years of
can you really use am I being pedantic here? Can you really use the word athlete to describe a 7-year-old? I guess you could, but come on, whatever.
Not seen that photo of Trump signing the executive order surrounded by young female athletes. It was, I mean, truly brought tears to my eyes. So many years of hard work came to that moment, which is incredible. I mean, from that to directing our government to unseal the JFK records, so much has happened. And next up in the slate of executive orders is apparently the future of the Department of Education. And TLDR, Trump wants to abolish it. But as are many things in our political landscape right now, education is a very heated issue. And a lot of people don't understand how this would work, if Trump would even be able to abolish it. They don't understand why people even want to get rid of the Department of Education, and they're very concerned with what happens after the Department of Education has been abolished. So we're going to try to break all of that down for you guys, answer some questions, but before we do, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the new channel if you've not already, and of course ring that notification bell to make sure that you stay up to date on all of our uploads. And of course, if you want ad-free episodes, a weekly advice video from me, and an exclusive newsletter for subscribers only, make sure to check out my subscriber platform, Cooper Confidential. We have a link right here. We will also have it in the description below, along with my exclusive launch merch. But without further ado, let's of course get back into the topic. So abolishing the Department of Education has been something that has been talked about for years at this point, but in the grand political sense, it has kind of been a fringe issue. Many conservatives and Republicans in Congress are very much against this. They support the Department of Education, and so this issue has really been propped up by libertarians like Justin Amash and limited government conservatives like my favorite Thomas Massie and Rand Paul. And Thomas Massie has actually tried to abolish the Department of Education multiple times at this point. It feels like he is constantly reintroducing a bill to abolish it completely, and yet it never happens. And as recently as last month, he reintroduced it yet again. On January 31st, he said, I just reintroduced HR 899, a one-sentence bill to terminate the Federal Department of Education and return power back to teachers and parents. This is it, the entire bill. And the bill reads, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, Section 1, terminate the Department of Education, and that's it. Literally one line. It is pretty epic. But of course,
that's so freaking epic, bro.
That would never pass in our modern government because, as we know, bills have to be like 700 pages long and chock full of ridiculous random things that our government wants to spend money on. So, of course, this has not passed. But with Trump's comeback with his focus on slimming down government with Elon Musk's influence and the influence of DOGE, eliminating this incredibly bloated, incredibly corrupt government department seems more possible than ever. And this time around, with this reintroduction, Massie actually has 30 Republican co-sponsors for this bill. So times are obviously changing. But 30 co-sponsors is still not enough. One article reads, if a bill were to move forward in the House, the GOP would still have to pull support from lawmakers outside of their 53-member Senate majority to reach the 60-vote threshold they need for the legislation to pass. So at this point, we got to keep educating people, and we got to pray, which you can do with Hallow. Guys, I'm so excited to share that this episode...
Keep educating people as we destroy the Department of Education. Based.
is sponsored by my friends over at Hallow. I've talked about Hallow before. You know that I use them. It is an incredible prayer outreach for anyone. And as we have corporate responsibility, you're just the most powerful praise free when you out the country needs it. Even though Pray 40 waitlist today. And maybe we can all work together to pray for the state of education because Lord knows our country needs it. Even though Massey has 30 Republican co-sponsors.
If you vibrations travel through solid mediums, and if you hit things that are connected to it, like a microphone, that'll pick it up. Okay. Now, when I tap my desk, notice you don't get that same sound. It's because we have a shock mount. The entire purpose of the shock mount is defeated, though, if you keep hitting the things that are connected to the microphone. That little thump that you're hearing, she keeps hitting the cable that's dangling from this microphone. Tighten the cable up, pull it through this more or something. Why does she keep hitting it?
We'll work together to pray for the state of education because Lord knows our country needs it. Even though Massey...
Hear that? Did you hear it? Did you hear it? She sounds like 4 times.
Our country needs it. Even though Massey has 30 Republican co-sponsors, even though Trump is talking about it, people are still against this. And it makes sense because getting rid of anything education, dealing with education will always be difficult as it is a very emotional and personal issue for people involving their children. And in my opinion, this is because they often conflate the existence of the Department of Education with the existence of public
schools.
education in the United States, which is just simply not the case. And I think that this comes down to most people not even knowing the history of the Department of Education and the fact that it was...
Oh, the history. Oh, I love it. Every time conservatives are going to get into history, it's always them like, okay, I don't really know what to say. Okay, let's go to the history. There was probably some racist person, some mean person, some evil person started it, because let's be real, that kind of is history. And then we can use that to discredit the thing as it currently exists right now.
Never really supposed to have the power or the budget that it does today. I mean, like most government agencies, it has obviously overstepped its bounds. I mean, most people don't even know that it is a relatively new government department. In fact, Jimmy Carter, who just passed away, he was the one who created the Department of Education. He signed it into law in 1979. And somehow, just to give you an example, somehow over the last 40 odd years, their budget has ballooned from $14 billion to over $238 billion. Wow. That is insane. But what is even more insane is that over these
like, why not address, I think that this funding was bad because, and then here are the things that it now funds that it shouldn't, or it's bad because it's moved beyond its legally like current mandate, or there were better ways to invest in it. Like, why not? Why? It's always just like, oh, there's a number. Blah.
40 years, over that insane increase in spending and in budget, there has been no improvement in American education. Just look at this graph from the Cato Institute. This is the trends in American public schooling since 1970. So the blue line right here is the total cost, the amount that we, as taxpayers, are spending on American education. That obviously has skyrocketed. Oh, employees have skyrocketed. We're paying more people. We see where our money is going. And then let's look at reading scores, math scores, science scores. Oh, they've stayed exactly the same. There has been no improvement in the slightest. Now, to give you guys a bit more backstory and context on this department and on this issue,
Okay, total cost is I'm just curious what this chart is. Trends in American public schooling since 1970. Total cost is the full cost of the K through 12 education of a single student graduating in the given year, adjusted for inflation. K through 12 education of a single student. Does this have anything to do with the Department of Education? How much, isn't the vast majority of the Department of Education funds, doesn't that go to colleges and universities? What percentage of Department of Education funds go to K through 12? State and local governments provide the vast majority of funding for K through 12 education. 86% of all school funding. Federal funding programs for K through 12. How much of the Department of Education's budget even goes to Department of Education budget spending? The majority, okay. So for fiscal year 2024, $161 billion went towards federal student aid. And then, this is a good chunk of it, but elementary and secondary education was $83 billion. So, but the majority of it, one might even say the vast majority of it, Special ed and rehabilitative services. I wonder if this has to do with K through 12 as well, or if that's for colleges. But it seems like quite a bit of it, like over, 60% goes to secondary education. So, okay. Okay.
Has been no improvement in the slightest. Now, to give you guys a bit more backstory and context on this department and on this issue as a whole, I called my friend Ryan Gordusky, who is the founder of the 1776 Project PAC, which is reforming school boards across the country, is trying to reform education. He is a genius on all things American education, and he broke down the history of the Department of Education like this.
Oh boy, he's a genius to reform it. Does he actually have cool ideas, or is it just school vouchers and private schools?
Before there was a Department of Education, there was something called the Office of Education. That came about right after the Civil War in 1867. And the purpose of that was just to collect data, like on schools and on school, how they were performing, what books they were reading, make a document, give it to Congress. That was basically the entire thing. And then when Lyndon Johnson becomes president in the 1960s, he says, hey, we really need to revamp education. The federal government needs to get really involved. And he creates Title I, which is about how to distribute money to local municipalities across the country, especially low-performing, poor municipalities. And education fundamentally changes at that point once money is really involved. Jimmy Carter runs on the idea that he's going to create a Department of Education. This is a big campaign promise of the teachers' unions. And it revamps education and broadens the scope of federal authority in the way that the federal government works with education.
And like I said at the beginning, and many of you know this, like I said, education is near and dear to my heart. This is probably the political issue that I care about the most. I feel like I have a stake in this as a young person.
Okay. I don't know how that fleshed out anything or made any arguments today, but okay, whatever.
That recently came out of the education system. I feel like I tried every different form of homeschooling and public schooling. I went to community college. I went to a formal university. I basically tried everything except Catholic school at this rate, and I know that there are problems. But the one thing that really stood out to me that I learned from Ryan when I interviewed him was that all of the intended functions of the Department of Education already existed in our federal government prior to 1979, prior to the department actually being created. They were just broken up into different departments based on what those departments' specialties were. They were not prior to the intended functions of the Department of Education already existed in our federal government prior to 1979, prior to the department.
Oh, this shock mount isn't even set up correctly. Because you can hear her banging on the table. What the fuck? What's even going on here? I'm triggered. Oh, bonus points in chat for whoever knows why you can hear the vibrate. I actually know it. I know it. I know why. Wait, do I know? I know why. It's because this pop filter that she got, I bet the pop filter is leaning on the mount or the mic, and it's connected to the boom arm. And so when she's hitting the desk, that's where it's coming from. That's what's going on.
Actually being created. They were just broken up into different departments based on what those departments' specialties were. They were not under one huge umbrella. And creating the Department of Education consolidated all of it and gave this department and the unions that lobbied for the creation of this department major power and control, as Ryan also covered. Listen here.
There's nothing abnormal about this. This happens, like, I don't know if I'd say it happens all the time, but it happens that departments sometimes get shuffled around or consolidated under a single department. It's supposed to be for efficiency or improvement. Rather than having 7 different departments that all do similar functions, you consolidate them under a similar department. I don't know how she feels about this one, but I'm pretty sure the Department of Homeland Security is an example of this. I believe it was a consolidation of several different things under Bush. Resources, Federal, Register, Control F. Homeland Security was established in 2002. Department of Homeland Security leads the Unified National Effort to Secure America. It was sub-agencies. ICE got rolled into this. Customs and Border Protection. But I think a few different departments of the Coast Guard got rolled into the Department of Homeland Securities. But I mean, like, yeah, this happens. This isn't a bad thing necessarily, but...
Many of the functions of the Department of Education were happening pre the creation, but they happen within different departments. This consolidates them and brings it all under one house, and it really gives the teachers' unions representation and also creates a massive budget. All of the unions definitely create huge pressure. The teachers' union is one of the largest unions in the country, and depending on what state you live in, they could be the largest, in any given region.
And guys, to this day...
Okay, but these aren't arguments for anything. These are just stating facts. Okay, sure.
The people who have the most control over the Department of Education, who are the major lobbyists, major motivators behind everything they do. And that would be the teachers' unions, quickly followed by the guidance counselor union. And if you don't know about the power of teachers' unions, maybe we'll have to do an entire episode just dedicated to that because it is truly insane. And based on the graph that we just looked at from the Cato Institute, it seems like these unions, these major lobbyists, the motivators behind the Department of Education, have cared a lot more about lining their pockets, about hiring more administrators, obviously, because the staff is growing, and pushing political ideologies instead of improving American education. In fact, in a recent op-ed for The Hill, Representative Harriet Hegman spoke on this perfectly. She wrote, that money, in other words, the $238 billion hasn't been effectively used to educate our young. It has disappeared into the maw of the Department of Education with no accountability for failure. The departments not related to education activities are also well known. Federal bureaucrats, for example, spent 3 years seeking to replace the word sex in federal education amendment to the Civil Rights Act with sexual orientation and gender identity. They have interfered with teachers' ability to remove disruptive and dangerous students from their classrooms, and they have promoted a seemingly endless stream of woke policies at the expense of our cohesiveness and to undermine pride in being American. The result? They are turning out generations of children who can't read or do math and believe that America is evil. Hence why
I don't think that my understanding is up to this point, I don't think that federal guidelines dictate curriculum to anybody. I think that's still up to teachers. I don't think there's any federal curriculum guidelines in the United States. I think we just have test scores that we want people to achieve. That's it. Also, when it comes to education, it's kind of like immigration. When I hear somebody arguing about immigration and they very quickly mix up immigrants, illegal immigrants, and refugees, when they treat all three of these categories as the exact same, it makes me very sus that they're just full of shit. And I feel like when I hear people talk about education in the United States, I think our university college system is quite separate from our K through 12 system. Like these two things I think are quite different. You saw on the chart, like where the money goes to for the Department of Education, for instance, way more of it goes to the university system. So it's kind of weird when people start mixing these all up. It makes me think that they have no idea what they're talking about, but
why so many lawmakers and so many conservatives like myself want to see this department dismantled. It is beyond time to silence that disruption like I do with my silencer from Silencer Shop. And you all know that I am a big advocate for our Second Amendment rights, and I believe in being prepared and being responsible when it comes to firearms. But let's be honest, shooting can be loud and sometimes even uncomfortable. And that's why I want to tell you about my friends over at Silencer Shop. They offer the largest selection of top brand suppressors that make your shooting experience quieter, safer, and way more enjoyable. So whether you are hitting the evils or coming back fight second. So Shop is the education system has not to get your suppressor. Upgrade your guns today. But obviously right now, this noise and this disruption to our education system has not been silenced. It is in full force, and it is not positively impacting the quality of our children's education in the slightest. In fact, by taking power away from the states and the parents, many argue that it has only made education worse, not just stagnant. And so as part of his 2024 campaign, one of the ideas that Trump ran on, one of the promises that he ran on, was abolishing this department in its entirety and sending power back to the states. Just take a listen from one of his rallies.
I'm going to take the Department of Education, close it in Washington, let the states run their own education. We spend more money per pupil than any other nation in the world by far.
like the states already run their own education, right? There are no federal curriculum guidelines. So if you get rid of the Department of Education, you're just slightly underfunding the local schools. Like that's all you're doing.
And yet we're ranked at the bottom of every list.
Which is all true, which should be incredibly embarrassing to every American. It should be a top priority for Americans to figure out how to fix this so that we can serve our children and our students better. And yet, on the left, and with many Republicans, the only solution they seem to come up with is more money. But we are already spending an insane amount of money. And again, going back to that graph, you can see where the money goes. It goes to the unions, it goes to the administrators, it does not even go to the teachers.
Wait, on which graph are we talking about? Did I miss this graph that shows where the money goes? I'm sorry, fuck. What time? Maybe I was reading chat. Was it? It wasn't.
Scores and math.
It wasn't this graph, was it? What? Okay, maybe okay.
Graph, you can see where the money goes. It goes to the unions, it goes to the administrators, it does not even go to the teachers, which we're going to talk about later. But going back to Trump and going back to his promises, promises made, promises kept, just this week, the Wall Street Journal revealed that Trump is active.
I feel like you're always in debunk mode. I think you would make stronger arguments if you tried to be charitable to these bad arguments and still find a way to debunk them from there. There's no charitability. They just want to abolish every government organization because they think it's all bad. Like, what's the suggested replacement? Like, it seemed like that Substack we read earlier, like having programs that we use to study educational outcomes and find out ways to better educate people is probably an important thing to do. But I feel like you probably need some federal guidance in order to carry out that research. Who's carrying it out otherwise? Like, are we, well, we don't, I was going to say nonprofits. Nope, because apparently conservatives hate those. NGOs. Nope, because conservatives hate those. The federal government. Nope, conservative hates that. Our state and local government's going to start paying to do research in their own, like, what is even the incentive? That requires more money. Funding is bad, so we're not going to do that. Like,
actively taking steps to ready an executive order that would, quote, dismantle the Department of Education. So apparently that is next in the pipeline. They wrote, Trump advisors weigh plan to dismantle education department. Administration officials are discussing executive order that could shut down key functions of the agency. And that was published on February 3rd. This has got people very excited. It was trending for like 24 hours on X. But the thing is, even though this executive order would be historic, it would be hugely impactful, Trump can't just abolish the Department of Education with a signature. The Department of Education was created through an act of Congress, so
oh my God, hey, at least she knows a little bit that what he's trying to do is super illegal. Now, she's not going to say it's illegal. She's just going to say we need Congress to do something, but
it must be abolished by by a vote in Congress. However, with an executive order, Trump can break it apart. And that is what people are speculating that he'll be doing.
I don't know if that's true, but
Here's how Ryan broke it down.
We want the Department of Education, certain things in the Department of Education to still happen. We want Title IX to be enforced, right? We don't want biological women to compete with biological men in sports. That is partly Title IX. My guess is he's probably going to move Title I into basically give it back to the states almost immediately and have the have very limited federal interaction as far as distribution of state money goes. And then Title IX will probably move to the Department of Justice.
Can somebody explain what is federal interaction where state money goes? Don't the states and the cities decide how to divvy up their own money for their education system?
I imagine, or maybe Department HHS, Department of Health and Human Services, whatever they have to preserve, Pell Grants will get moved to maybe Treasury or something like that. Whatever they have to preserve will get moved to other federal departments, and the Department of Education will probably be a building with no lights on.
So TLDR, how this would work is that many of the original core functions of the department, pre-Department of Education, pre-Jimmy Carter era, they would still exist. Title I would be protected. It would be just moved under a different jurisdiction. Title IX, everything that we fought for women, for protecting women, that would be protected. It would just be moved. It would all be reallocated and shifted around to break up this power monopoly.
What? So instead of having one Department of Education, you want it broken up into 10 different other departments? Or like, this sounds like the least efficient thing ever. Like, why? Like, would this even be better?
This department has over our education system and over the states. And you just gotta know, and I love this, that the teachers' unions are losing their minds. Because remember, they were the ones who wanted this in the first place. They are the ones who benefit the most. They are the ones who have the most power over everything this department does. So I want you to take a listen to my good friend, Randy Weingarten. Randy Weingarten, if you didn't know, is one of the people that I despise most on the face of the earth. She's the president of the country's largest and most powerful teachers' union. And she recently did an interview where she was screeching about Trump's plans for the Department of Education and how this would take money away from students and instead line the pockets of billionaires.
Where's the money going? Who's taking it? Are they trying to take that money that kids get for tax cuts for billionaires? What's going on? That's why we have to see what they're doing. It is illegal to take that money out of children's mouths and give it to billionaires.
See, this is why this issue is so emotional. Because they say things like this: we're taking money away from your kids. Your kids are going to go hungry. They're lining the pockets of billionaires.
To be clear, though, and I hate it when Democrats virtue signal on issues like that, on this, but this is exactly what you're doing. This is exactly what you're doing. Trump wants to extend his tax cuts, which overwhelmingly support the wealthy elite in the United States, and then they want to defund the Department of Education, which means less money going to school. So that is exactly what's happening. Now you can argue that, well, maybe the billionaires will trickle that wealth down or whatever, but that is exactly what's happening, you know? Like,
she was so emotional because they say things like this: we're taking money away from your kids. Your kids are going to go hungry. They're lining the pockets of billionaires. None of that is happening. Literally not in the slightest. Also, I love at the beginning, she goes, where's the money going? The money wouldn't exist in the first place because we would stop taxing people, American citizens, the parents of these students would be able to keep more of their money. That is where it would go. It just wouldn't go to you, Randy, which I think is what you were most concerned about. Because again,
she looks like she's super wealthy, and before she actually worth $500 million.
None of what you just screeched about and basically burst into tears over is happening. None of it. Yes, you.
None of what is happening? The Department of Education is being threatened with closure, or tax cuts for really wealthy people. Trump wants to extend the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Those two things aren't happening? Or
might make less money. Your $500,000 a year salary might decrease. You might have less power, but children will still be able to go to public school. Children will still have access to school lunches, if that is what you're concerned about. Teachers will still be paid as their salaries are set by the state. They're not even set by the federal Department of Education. And I just want to be on record saying that I am in favor of anything that decreases the political power of these teachers' unions, that decrease.
Damn, we hate teachers. Well, if the salaries are set by the states and the local things, what do we... I don't even know what the argument is. 1824. Randy Weingarten. She's the president of the American Federation of Teachers. Oh, she's the head of the teachers union. Damn. Member of the AFL-CIO.
That kids get for tax cuts for billionaires? What's going on? That's why we have to see what they're doing. It is
school lunches, if that is what you're concerned about. Teachers will still be paid as their salaries are set by the state. They're not even set by the federal Department of Education. And I just want to be on record saying that I am in favor of anything that decreases the political power of these teachers' unions, that decreases the power of people like Randy Weingarten, who use her position to further her own political ideologies and to make more money for herself. So yes, Randy, that is a long way of saying that money will be allocated differently. That will change, but it will be sent to the states.
So I don't think you're going to see a massive slashing as far as spending goes. It's really who does the spending and where. So I don't think you're going to see most of it go away. There will be somewhat of a fingerprint still from the federal government on education, and then the rest will be deciphered by the states and local government.
Which, interestingly, you seem to support, Randy.
States and localities run education. They basically, that's where 90% of the funding for education goes. They already run it. They should run it. The federal government should not run it.
Oh, I'm so glad we can all agree, Randy, that the state should run education, that the federal government...
She just said that they already do, though.
With your $238 billion budget, should not be running the American educational system. So
why doesn't she distinguish between colleges and universities and K through 12? Like, these are two different educational systems in terms of how we treat them.
maybe that faux emotional outrage that we just saw is really not about the students, but it's about you and your pals losing political power. So hopefully, guys, those insights from Ryan, that brief history about the Department of Education, Trump's plans, how that would actually work, hopefully that clears...
Wait, actually, I don't know the answer to this. In the United States of America, are teachers' unions, are those just K through 12 teachers, or are those university teachers as well? Are they part of the teachers' unions? Teacher Union, United States. Holy fuck, this website. Higher education. Wait, fuck. The American Federation of Teachers is the second largest teachers' labor union in America, the largest being the National Education Association. Are college professors part of the National, wait, what was it called? Education Association. It says, yes, they are. The AI thing does. The dedicated faculty, staff, and graduate workers of our nation's colleges and universities help students pursue their passions. By helping them advocate for safe working conditions. Okay. Where are my college professors at? Are the majority of college teachers also part of the teachers' unions? I've never really thought about it before. I'm just curious.
This up for you, explains why this is happening and what you can expect. So yes, things hopefully are going to change, but hopefully if this works the way that we want,
What do Republicans even want the federal government to do? It sounds like they want everything to be states' rights and federal government to exist just to remove rights of minorities like LGBTQ, etc. I don't know. I have no idea, bro. They just want to enforce they don't, first of all, please, please, please don't ever fucking say that on my chat again. Republicans do not give a fuck about states' rights, okay? That is not true. States' rights is a dog whistle for I want to get rid of like some federal protection always. States' rights never has anything to do with states' rights, because as soon as you talk about like a state's right to ban firearms or something, well now, whoa, the Constitution, the federal government, this is so important, blah, blah, blah. The conservatives don't give a fuck about states' rights. They just care about, they'll say states' rights, so they're trying to get rid of some federal protection or federal thing, but otherwise they want all their power. They want to be able to make it so that if you're in Texas and you order an abortion pill from Louisiana, that they can extradite the doctor and charge him with a fucking crime.
And a Texas judge fined a New York doctor $100,000 for sending abortion medications to a woman in Texas where most abortions are banned. The same doctor faces criminal charges in a similar case in Louisiana, pitting the governors of Louisiana and New York against each other. Sharika Duncan talked with a prosecutor in that case.
We're prosecuting the doctor because she violated Louisiana laws for aiding and abetting and committing abortion. Bottom line is, come answer the warrant.
Tony Clayton is the district attorney in Louisiana who filed the criminal charges against New York doctor Margaret Carpenter.
If the abortion crime were a tailor-made suit, it would custom fit the actions of Dr. Carpenter.
How much time is she facing? What's the penalty?
That's up to a judge. So it ranges from 5 to 15. It depends on what.
5 to 15 years behind bars.
Yes.
The doctor sent pregnancy-ending medication to the mother of a 17-year-old in Louisiana. The drugs mifepristone and misoprostol are illegal in the state, with few exceptions. Clayton alleges the mother forced her pregnant daughter to take the medication. He now wants the doctor to face a jury.
If you're innocent, Dr. Carpenter, then these 12 people down here would tell you you're innocent. If you're guilty.
This is my only one for today, so you have to give it to me. Hold on. You actually, I think this might be my best work yet. Butchie from The Wire. Actually, yes. Actually, hold on, we're pulling this one. This is what I need my... What did Ninja call it? Was it the boogie button? $58% yes. Holy shit. We take those.
They're going to tell you you're guilty. What's wrong with come and face the music?
New York Governor Kathy Hochul refuses to extradite Carpenter, who co-founded a group that has advocated making abortion medication available.
Just curious, is there anything that's like comparable to this where if you... So like it's illegal in Nebraska to buy cool fireworks, I think. My recollection is that everybody would drive to Missouri to buy the cool shit, and then you'd come back to Nebraska. If you shipped something from Missouri to Nebraska, if you shipped those fireworks, could Nebraska try to arrest somebody from Missouri? Is that possible?
By mail, even to states where it's restricted or banned.
I will make sure that everyone in the state knows, keep your hands off this doctor.
This DA and people that support this shit are actually sick. I'm so blackpilled by the future lately. It's depressing and hard. Even want to participate in politics anymore. Based.
Governor of Louisiana, the Attorney General, the prosecutor we spoke to all say you are not respecting law in Louisiana. What do you say to that?
I say I'm respecting the laws of New York. Am I supposed to make those subservient to laws in another state?
Governor Hochul signed legislation earlier this month expanding a New York law that protects doctors who provide medication abortion care outside of New York.
The Supreme Court may have to get involved in resolving a dispute between two states' interpretations.
Do you expect this case to go to the Supreme Court?
I expect that I will stand firm to protect this doctor, so she's staying right here.
And Jerika Duncan joins us now. Jerika, what happens if this doctor travels outside of New York and then gets pulled over or something for some reason?
That's the thing here. Governor Hochul said that she cannot protect Dr. Carpenter if she leaves the state. So this is a situation where the governor says as long as she's here, she has my support. But if she steps outside, she very well could find herself.
Is one state allowed to extradite somebody for another state? Like, if, let's say somebody's from New York and, yeah, you must be able to, right? Like if you murdered somebody in Texas and then you went to Washington, Washington could absolutely, would I imagine, would absolutely extradite you to Texas, right? Of course they would. Damn, we could end up with some weird fucking web where there's like a whole bunch of red states. Like if you're traveling, don't travel to these states because there's probably like 20 arrest warrants for you.
In a situation where she has to go answer those charges in Louisiana.
So then where does the case go from?
Part of the full faith and credit clause.
Here.
So because this is uncharted territory and we're talking about a case with these two contradictory laws, it could go before the Supreme Court. As you heard in the report, Governor Hochul saying she's willing to take on that fight. Also, Clayton, the prosecutor there in Louisiana, saying the same thing. But this is what some people did expect with the overturning of Roe v. Wade when you have so many states operating under different laws and different jurisdictions.
Jerika Duncan, thank you, Jerika.
Damn. Anyway, sorry. Let's get back to our...
So hopefully, guys, those insights from Ryan, that brief history about the Department of Education, Trump's plans, how that would actually work, hopefully that clears this up for you, explains why this is happening and what you can expect. So yes, things hopefully are going to change. But hopefully if this works the way that we want, fingers crossed, this means that students will be getting a better education. This means that parents and states and school boards, the people who actually understand their local students and understand what they need, will be given power again. And hopefully this means...
Will be given power again. But you literally just said and agreed with her that states already have all the power. So I don't understand.
You seem to support, Randy.
States and localities run education. They basically, that's where 90% of the funding for education goes. They already run it. They should run it. The federal government should not run it.
Oh. Will be getting a better education. This means that parents and states and school boards, the people who actually understand their local students and understand what they need, will be given power again. And hopefully this means that our education system will stop being run into the ground by a small sect of self-serving bureaucrats.
But that doesn't happen because that small sect of self-serving bureaucrats have literally no say over state and local curriculum.
So in my opinion, this is something that everyone, regardless of whether you are on the left or the right, should be excited about. And if you are worried about this department being abolished in its entirety and that causing something that we've not planned for, according to Ryan, Republicans don't even have the votes to do that as it stands now to abolish the department. So maybe it's something we don't even need to worry about.
Congress has to vote for it. Basically, he needs the 60 senators, and there's 53 Republicans, and I don't think most of the Republicans, not most, but there's a lot of Republicans who would not support abolishing the Department of Education. So a formal closing it down is probably not going to happen, but reducing its size and scope of what it does will probably, happen.
So again, support for your students is not going away. Protections over students are not going away. Aid for school lunches is not going away. The Pell Grants aren't going away. They will will hopefully just be run by people who are actually involved in those specific issues. Hopefully the person that is now overseeing school lunches will be our
Who would be more involved with Pell Grants than the Department of Education? What?
way. They will hopefully just be run by people who are actually involved in those specific issues. Hopefully the person that is now overseeing school lunches will be RFK Jr. And hopefully this reallocation means that students' education will not just be increasing, but also their health will be increasing. And I also think that this could help spark fresh involvement from parents and students on the local level, because I want you guys to know that you actually have way more power than you think. Like, we really, honestly, do not have to wait for any of this to happen on the federal level. We do not need to wait for this executive order or for any of this to take effect to make a change. And the school system in Miami-Dade County in Florida is a testament to this. Just listen.
In some districts, like in Miami-Dade, which is a conservative majority school board, you're seeing dynamic changes. You're seeing Singapore math in the classrooms. You're seeing classical reading levels now, reading going to K through 3, soon to be K through 5. They're trying things. And when school boards are actually dynamic and have the ability to really make reforms, you're able to see big improvements in education.
I mean, all of that.
Then it sounds like literally anybody can already do this no matter what. So what does anything you're saying matter? So if states already have all the power to do this right now, you're just talking about giving them slightly less money. If Miami is already able to experiment with this and all the states can already do this, what the fuck are you even advocating for? Like, this video is so brainless. It's like what do you call it when people speak like crazy people, where they like pivot at the last word and they just tie it to something else? Like Kanye West speaks like this sometimes. Like, this feels like a Markov chaining together of conservative ideas about Department of Education with no respect for what came 3 sentences earlier. Like, this video is so unbelievably incoherent.
Things. And when school boards are actually dynamic and have the ability to really make reforms, you're able to see big improvements in education.
I mean, all of that is incredible. They are getting a classical education in elementary school thanks to what the school board is doing and what they are willing to try and implement. Another great example that Ryan talked about were the states of Mississippi and Louisiana, who had the best student rebound in the country, in the entire nation, post-COVID, because of the steps that the local school boards and local legislators took. In fact,
hold on.
The best
Los Angeles students showed more improvement than any other state after pandemic. Dog. That's because they're like fucking 49th in education. Yeah, when you're literally ranked last, of course. I could train, you could put get Usain Bolt and 10 Olympic coaches with him, and then give me one fat dude, and I could have that fat dude improve 1,000,000 times more than Usain Bolt just because he's got so much more room to improve. This is like obviously such a fucking stupid argument. What do you mean? Mississippi and Louisiana, these are like the bottom ranked schools for education. No shit.
Student rebound in the country, in the entire nation, post-COVID, because of the steps that the local school boards and
I'm just curious what this article says. LA students showed more improvement than any other state. Oh, sorry. Louisiana also ranked number 4 in average relative scores. What does that mean? States demographically adjusted performance on the 2022 Nations Report Card. What does that mean? Oh no. 2 years ago, the U.S. government released the first comprehensive look at student achievement in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. The results are well summarized by the Washington Post headline: scores fall coast to coast, especially in math, under pandemic's toll. The declines were the largest ever reported, and scores fell in nearly every state. Also, I like how we only know this because of federal research on education and studies that are funded by the government, right? What did they say this was from? A nonprofit research organization. So we're not going to have this data anymore, I guess. Wait, hold on. Oh my fucking God. It's literally, this is literally referencing the Urban Institute, a nonprofit research organization, published its report on the 2022 National Assessment of Educational Progress, also known as the nation's report card. The only reason why she can even cite this data here is because of research related to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, which we just read in the Substack, is a thing that's being targeted by, IS includes various subunits, including the National Center for Education Statistics, which is the main source for a ton of incredibly valuable resources to track national progress, including the Common Core of Data and the National Assessment of Educational Progress. Sorry, hold on, okay. The top ranking states across the 4 tests, adjusted for demographics, are Massachusetts, Mississippi, Florida, Louisiana, and Texas. These states largely ranked well before the pandemic, but the analysis identifies several states where relative performance has substantially changed since 2019. I use student-level data available under a restricted use license from the National Center for Education Statistics to calculate demographically adjusted NAEP scores for each of the 4 tests of 2019 and 2022. For each test in each year, I measure the relationship nationwide between test scores and student demographics, including gender, age, race or ethnicity, receipt of free and reduced price lunch, special education status, and English language learner status. Interesting. So, okay. Racially, demographically adjusted. Based. And then this was the article for the AP. Mississippi sees rebound in latest student test scores. Oh, this is the AP article down here. Mississippi student test scores are exceeding pre-pandemic levels in 2 subjects after a decline the previous year, according to results released Thursday by the State Department of Education. The statewide results from the 2021-2022 Mississippi Academic Assessment Programs show a boost of test scores for English, language, arts, and science. The percentage of students scoring proficient or advanced reached what the department said is an all-time high of 42.2% in English and 55.9% in science. Students scored 47.3% in mathematics, just shy of the pre-pandemic rate of 47.4%. The 2021-22 assessment results provide clear and indisputable evidence of the resilience of our students and educators and their ability to recover from the disruptions to learning. The Department of Education, this means it's referring specifically to the Mississippi Department of Education, right? I don't like that these have the same fucking name sometimes. By the State Department of Education. I'm assuming this still means the State of Mississippi Department of Education. Attributed the rising number of students scoring proficient and advanced to districts having more experience managing pandemic disruptions. The additional support districts received, including federal COVID-19 relief funds and state investments, also helped accelerate learning. The department said districts use the additional funds to pay for extended learning days, tutorial services, and intensive interventions.
And local legislators took. In fact, in Mississippi, 4th graders had achieved the #1 spot in the nation for gains on the NAEP in reading and in math, with 4th graders scoring higher than the nation's public school average in math and tying the nation in reading. In addition to that, 8th graders had outpaced the nation for growth in math and held steady in reading. Nationally, scores for most NAEP subjects dropped or remained flat. And in Louisiana, the results were... math and health scoring higher Mississippi rebound in the country, in the entire nation, post-COVID because of the steps that the local school boards and local legislators took. In fact,
is this coming from that study, the racially adjusted one?
scoring high in reading nationally, getting back to most NAEP subjects dropped or remained flat. And in Louisiana, the results were similar. And the superintendent there credits this to getting back to the basics and credits it to states' rights. And he said this in a recent interview.
Credits it to states' rights? Okay, maybe in a different article, but...
From just a couple days ago. He said, I operate from what I call the BRAVE plan, going back to basics, redesigning systems, accelerating parental rights, valuing teachers, and expanding educational freedom. It's so funny how things get better and move more efficiently and faster when you remove the influence of government. He goes on and he says, this department is organized to how things get basics, redesigning systems, accelerating parental rights.
The department is organized to accomplish those things. That's why we push out resources, and it's what drives our conversations with community members, policymakers, and educators. It's a comprehensive set of reforms we put in place, and it's really encouraging to see movement. Right now, we also have a ton of alignment between our governor's office, our legislature, our state board, and our agency, and that united front helps with the implementation in schools. I also think we execute really well. I've had conversations with individuals in other states that have attempted similar reforms, but the execution wasn't what it needed to be. We're really intentional about both the initial launch of policies, but also support afterwards. What does this have to do with abolishing the Department of Education?
Rights, valuing teachers, and expanding educational freedom. It's so funny how things get better and move more efficiently and faster when you remove the influence of government. He goes on.
What did that remove the influence of government? This is literally talking about a lot. What do you think the governor's office is? The legislature is? The state board is? What are these things?
Educational freedom. It's so funny how things get better and move more efficiently and faster when you remove the influence of government. He goes on and he says, this department is organized to accomplish those things. That is the way that we push out resources, and it's what drives our conversation with community members, policymakers, and educators. It is a comprehensive set of reforms we put in place, and it's really encouraging.
She's going to stop reading. She's going to stop reading after movement.
To see movement. Right now, we also have a ton of alignment.
She didn't. Okay.
Between our governor's office, our legislator, our state board, and our agency. And that united front helps with implementation in schools. I also think we execute really well. I've had conversations with individuals in other states that have attempted similar reforms, but the execution wasn't what it needed to be. We're really intentional about both the initial launch of policies, but also support afterwards. And then continuing on, he said, many schools and systems and educators across the country have chased shiny things, and sometimes even ideologies that aren't necessarily relevant to simply teaching kids to read and do math. At a time when funding is becoming less plentiful, which is odd because, again, a $238 billion budget, that really shouldn't be the case. States need to look.
Most of that money doesn't go to K through 12, and you want to reduce that funding anyway.
Academic returns on investment. It's a really good time to focus on schooling, particularly in elementary schools. I mean, seriously, it is.
None of this has anything to do with the topic of this video. This has nothing to do with the subject of the video.
States need to look at academic returns on investment. It's a really good time to.
Many schools and systems and educators across the country have chased shiny things and sometimes even ideologies. That's talking about other school systems and other educators. This isn't saying the federal government is forcing us. I wonder if she even scripts these videos or if somebody just does it for her.
Focus on schooling, particularly in elementary schools. I mean, seriously, it is comical that this is something that a superintendent has to say. That really, it's a good time to focus on schooling. Shouldn't that have been the focus of the federal government, of the Department of Education?
None of that had to do with the federal government. This is, the script is either ChatGPT or she has a writer maybe, but would a writer be this bad? I think, I wonder if it's all just AI.
Last 40 odd years? No, because they focus on ideologies. They focus on giving power to administrators and the teacher unions instead of actually helping the kids. And what makes me even more
none of the things that you cited, none of those sources had anything to do with too much money going towards administrators or whatever. None of that had anything to do with any of that.
Excited about states like Louisiana and Mississippi, Alabama was not far behind them, is that these are the states that get mocked and shamed. These are the low-income.
Because these are the bottom-ranking education states.
It's conservative states that the left and the teachers unions love to mock and demonize. They're the ones who are the laughing stock of America, but obviously they're doing something right. All the coastal cities that boast about their education system, sorry, you can't keep up with Louisiana and Mississippi. Because, as the superintendent said, they're focusing on schooling. And back to that point about local school boards and parents being able to make change, as you're seeing in Louisiana and Mississippi, I have always said that the only way I would run for public office, because truly that seems like the worst thing on earth, I would rather drag myself across hot coals than do that. The only way I would do that was if it was for a school board, because real change happens there. Again, even without the federal government. And you do not need to be a parent or an educator.
It's already happening. The federal government doesn't seem to be blocking it at all. You just want to make them get less money. What?
To be on board. I mean, some of the most effective change makers recently have been young people. Some as young as 18 years old who are hungry and motivated and have just recently left the school system. So they intimately know the problems. They intimately know solutions that can help students that can get this system back on track. So to sum all of this up, hopefully Trump is able to make this happen. I hope that he is able to dismantle and restructure American education, maybe even abolishing the Department of Education in its entirety. I would love for that to happen. I would love to see the glee on Thomas Massey's face if he is finally able to pass this one-sentence bill. And this certainly will make things better and easier coming from the federal level. It will eliminate a lot of financial bloat. It will eliminate a lot of corruption, which is obviously a good thing, and we should all be advocating.
What does this have to do with state education? education. Like, all of your sources in here disagreed with you. The Miami example, students are already doing this, parents are already doing this. You're already giving examples of local systems that like...
For whether you were on the left or the right. But per usual, what I want you to remember is the change always starts with you at home. So if there's something that you do not like about your school system, if there's something that you do not like about your child's education, the power is in your hands. And if you are a student, there is so much that you can do. And I urge you to look into Ryan's work with the 1776 Project PAC. And with all of this combined, after 40 plus years, we will finally, hopefully, be focusing on improving American education. Because truly, that is the end goal.
Never again. Oh my God, what a lazy video. It's got to be ChatGPT scripted. That'd be my guess. It feels like it. Like, it's just like finding stuff that has like some of the same words and then